So thank you. Part of that introduction and opening that Alan had, thank you very much. That was very gracious. One of the other things that we need to recognize was the first responders in the military, but also the people that take this oath. Mike Cartwright, here to solemnly swear and affirm that I will protect my country and the Constitution from enemies both foreign and domestic. So you heard that, foreign and domestic. Well, the other people that take that oath are public officials. So if you're running for office now, or you will be running in the future, or you have run in the past, please stand and let us recognize you. Please stand up. Billy Christensen, John Clayton, the deputy manager. All of this has to do with election integrity, and that's why we have invited a special guest speaker here tonight. And he served in the Air Force for 9 years, and then 10 years as a government contractor, and now he wants to serve as our supervisor of election. And even though he wasn't given that position at the election, he is still working on that. And the people who are also SOE candidates who really know that we have a problem, they just didn't walk off into the sunset. Well, I didn't win and I'm not going to get a big salary. They're still trying to expose that election fraud. As in our next guest, would you please give a warm welcome to Mr. Billy Christensen.
So thank you, Mike. So I'm gonna, I guess, play professor tonight, and we'll just give this briefing right here. Does everybody know me? For those who don't, if you don't recognize me, maybe perhaps not my name. I'm Billy Christensen. I ran for Supervisor of Elections in Hillsborough County in 2024. I'm a husband, father, and a veteran. And when we got into the race, well, first off, let me say, we had a tremendous turnout and a tremendous response in our election. And it was largely in part because of the support that you all provided. So I want to take a moment and thank everyone in the room for everything that you did to support us. It meant the world to us. We haven't had the opportunity to tell everyone that individually. So thank you. We made a commitment when we started in this race that we were going to shine some light on some of the issues in this county in terms of our elections. And what we're doing now is following through on that commitment. We spent the last couple of months analyzing the data. Nobody's heard me complain or cry about us losing the election. You're not going to hear me say we won the election, but I'm going to tell you right now, we won the election. We really won the election. So I'm going to show you how. Is everybody aware that President Trump last Monday basically tweeted, or whatever, on Truth, that he's going to sign an executive order regarding election integrity, and he specifically mentioned vote by mail ballots, right? Yes. Couldn't agree more. I hope by the end of this brief or this presentation, you'll understand why he said that. Because in Hillsborough County, vote by mail fraud is the fraud of choice. Okay? So this way? All right, well, anyways, we'll do it this way. We already talked about it. This is the tweet from President Trump, right? So there it is. It's not me making it up. And I hope everybody realizes now, after a year of campaigning, that we operate from a place of fact. We don't work from conjecture. We're very singularly focused election integrity. We haven't swayed from that. If we say something or we present something, we have the documentation to back it up. So keep that in mind as we go through this. First, let's talk about the political landscape in the county, because I think it's very important and it paints a picture. This, very simple. Oh, we got a conversion issue, but that's okay. We all understand now that Republicans now outnumber Democrats in Hillsborough County in registrations, okay? That's all this is showing. Republicans have slightly overtaken Democrats. The total registered voters as of the end of July was basically 802,000. Do you know what it was on election day? Yeah. The voter registrations were on election day were 857,000 people, a little over. So since election day, essentially 56,000 people have come off our voter logs. The question is, where have they gone? Well, we'll review that shortly. This chart, if you can see it, it's very simple. It shows the voter trends of basically what the preference of voters are over the last 3 general election cycles. Blue is the day of voting, green is early voting, and yellow is absentee, which has been hijacked by the term vote by mail, okay? Originally, absentee was for military or people overseas, or you have a medical issue, a legitimate issue, and that should remain. I think nobody is against that. But introducing the introduction of vote by mail ballots has muddied the waters. Gotta have it happen.
Could you kind of like rewind a few steps? No, you said something about, we got a little interference.
Yeah.
56,000 and something about how many Republicans on election day and something about.
Yeah. So what we're saying here, this as of the end of July, there's 800. All I'm going to show right now is at the end of July, there's essentially 802,000 registered voters. On election day here in 2024, it was essentially 857,000. So since election day, over the last 8 months, roughly 56,000 voters have come off our laws. That's a significant cutoff. What happened to those voters? But we'll show what's going on here momentarily. The next chart again was just recapping the voter trends or the preferences of voters over the last 3 election cycles. And what you'll see is an uptick in all of them, quite frankly, but with the introduction of vote by mail and COVID in 2020, and I call that the year of fraud, you see an immense amount of vote by mail. If you recall in 2020, the key there was they insisted on sending out a vote by mail ballot for every registered voter, right? You didn't have to request it. You can't see this number, but in 2020, there were 934,000 registered voters in Hillsborough County. Okay? So 934,000 vote by mail ballots went out. Bear in mind, there's only 802,000 registered voters in the county as of right now. So you can see just in the last 4 years how many registered voters have fallen off the charts. Okay? That's all I want to show. And then also I want to highlight that large and far, the voter preference is early voting. Like they like to say it's vote by mail or absentee ballot. That is not the case. And I'll show too that this number that we're reporting here is the accurate number. That's the count provided by the government. It's probably an inflated number. This just shows general voting trends in the primaries and then also in the general elections. The takeaway from here is nobody's participating in the primaries. So if you're gonna participate in fraud, this is the best opportunity, right? So you gotta identify your weaknesses before you can strengthen them. So there's a big weakness here. It's not just about getting participation. The more people that are participating, the bigger sample size you get and the more accountability there is. The more questions get asked, right? It's harder to manipulate the votes. You don't need 500 to sway an election. Perhaps now you need 2,000. That's a bigger hurdle to overcome. So we need bigger turnout for a lot of reasons, if anything, to prevent the fraud. In the general election, you see the whole world participates, right? And I think it's very interesting to point out that in 2020, there were 717,000 plus votes cast. Bearing in mind that apparently we only have 802,000 total registered votes. If you use those two numbers, that's like 90-some+% turnout. It did not happen. Okay? So we got anomalies starting to pop up, right? Any objective person would start to question things. But don't question it to anyone of relevance because you will get smacked down. So we'll continue. I'll go to the next slide here. Boop. This slide is very simple. It shows this is just in Hillsborough County. This is the population increase from 2012 to 2025 versus the voter registrations overall. It's not party specific. So here's the population. We've grown from roughly 1.2 million to roughly 1.62 million. So we're about 400,000, 30% over the last 12 years. However, for some reason, our voter registrations are falling off the chart whilst our population is growing. How can that be? That in itself is a magnificent anomaly. It should warrant some sort of investigation. Can we not all agree? Right? So I have this little marker here, SB90. Everybody's like, what's going on? Right? 2020, the year of the obvious fraud, the year that now we can probably safely say that President Trump had his election stolen. Anybody that says otherwise is probably on the bad side at this point. The state recognized at some level there was some fraud in our elections because our elections are state controlled. So collectively they introduced a series of election integrity laws, one being SB90. which mandated that the Supervisor of Elections clean their voter logs every year and report back to the state. So some level of accountability, right? A very small level. But that small sliver of accountability has made a massive change, whether they wanted it or not. So what we've seen, okay, so first we have to say, how do they get a voter off, or a ghost, they call them ghost voters. How do you remove a ghost voter? It's someone that hasn't voted in the last 2 election cycles, that didn't respond to a mailer that was sent out from the elections office, and hasn't shown up in person to vote. If they did any of those things, they would be immediately added back onto the logs. So what we're saying is that just since 2021, over 130,000 registered voters in this county have magically disappeared. Those voters that were previously registered, that probably should not have been, that received vote by mail ballots. Now, imagine if we could do a truly objective and independent audit. Who wants to bet $1 that we'll find some of those ghost voters voted vote by mail? Right? Okay. So let's go to the next slide. That's on.
They probably weren't even voting, they're probably ballots prepared for them.
Well,
because before SB 90, unrestricted mail-in ballots could be sent out. DeSantis, at least to his credit, stopped that. It had to request this, but ever since then, there's been no election integrity.
That's right.
Bills.
I'm sorry, there's a little glitches here in the conversion from, the evil Apple to the PowerPoint. Yeah, that's another element of the bill, is that instead of having it mandatorily sent out, you had to request it, right? A key note here, because we're going to get into it. Your hair is about to stick up. In order to request your vote by mail ballot, you need to provide one of 2 things, or both. Your social security, the last 4 of your social security number, and or a Florida driver's license number or a state ID number, right? That's it. It's mandatory, which means you cannot not get a vote by mail ballot without one of those 2 things, okay? State law, mandatory. When you dig deeper into the registrations and the voter trend, or the ballot trends, and this is basically when SB 90 is here, it's not lining up, but that's essentially the right area. This is broken down by party. Democrat, Republican, NPA. And what's interesting here is you see almost identical trends with the Democrat and NPA registrations. Almost mirror each other.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's not necessarily a 1-for-1, but they're definitely trending identical, very, very similarly. A crazy anomaly, right? Like, see all these anomalies that we haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. The implementation of SB 90, off the chart, right? Off the chart. However, the Republicans continue to trend upward, which bodes well for Republicans. Surprisingly, this is not being celebrated at the level it should be. It's an interesting thing. But Republicans have overtaken Hillsborough County. It's a red county. And I contend, based on this, Hillsborough County has probably been a red county for quite some time. Right? And perhaps that's why it's not being celebrated, right? They don't want to recognize that we've been red for a while.
Because they've let Latimer and they've had the cheating acquiesced.
Yes. You said it. So, the trends, even on the fall off, mirror each other, which I find very, very interesting. Okay? These are incredible statistical anomalies that, I literally grew up outside of Wichita, Kansas, right? I'm proud of where I'm from, but come on, right? I'm no scientist. This stuff isn't rocket science by any means. You understand? It's like, if I can figure this out, I know you guys are seeing it. All right. The whole point of the brief is to identify election security issues and interference. This is a busy slide, but what I want to say on this slide, and what's key here is, this is my own personal, our team's own personal definition of what we consider election interference is. Direct, indirect, and external influences. And this is not, there's others out there. But what's important to note here is that every one of these things is happening in Hillsborough County. And if you ask me, I can tell you right now the exact incident and who's involved. So don't do it, because a lot of it's unflattering, because it's not party specific, all right? Everybody's playing. So I do want to highlight, because President Trump brought it up, vote by mail, right? And again, I'm going to point to very shortly here how that is the fraud of choice in the county. But this indirect is very important. This is the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. This is where you have the lobbyists, you have other politicians, all the politicking, all the things we loathe that go on that run interference in our elections. And it's extremely effective. This again is why you need to pay attention to what's going on in the primaries. This candidate slander is no joke. I don't know, and I'll bring it up. And I use us as an example because it's important. I don't know if some people are aware, but we were hit with an extremely aggressive candidate slander campaign right before the election. And this despite us going to great lengths to engage with everyone, right? We thought, and maybe I was a little bit naive, but we thought we had, we'd leveled the field. And we were hit with mailers and emails, which in themselves are nothing, but it was the content, and they were using return addresses from Republican organizations, places like this, the REC, right? The International Event Center, the headquarters, right? And it was just a random, anonymous, made-up group with slander about that our house had been foreclosed, that all my licenses had been suspended from my real estate. Just all easily verifiable stuff. Said that I embezzled $30,000 from Central Command. Like, it's incredible, right? So all this stuff was sent out to my neighbors, to my family, to anybody that donated over, it was sent to them. And luckily, people underestimated our network. You are a network, right? Everybody knows this stuff to be false, so it was ineffective, and I think to their surprise. So, to a certain degree, that's just politics, right? And we can put that aside. Post-election, we're months after the election, come January, we're starting to get slanderous mailers again. All right, we're gonna have to take the legal route. And I don't know why they're targeting us. All we're doing is trying to fix our elections.
See, yeah, we know why.
Then it gets worse. My wife starts getting mailers. They signed her up to battered spouse organizations across the country. They signed her up to prison pal groups across the country. Prison pal group, pen pal groups. And they're doing it using the organizations of these clubs. There's more, see, now here's the thing, this is why that's in there. This is why all this is in there, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's effective, and this is what they do. It doesn't have to be true. This stuff comes from all anonymous sources, and they build in their slander campaigns, whoever these groups are, and it's not just one group, there's multiple groups. They build in the lawsuits that come in behind. They know they're gonna get sued. But the unique thing about this one is it was done completely anonymously, from completely anonymous sources. But we're really good at finding out who people are. We have a team of intelligence professionals.
Yep.
So there's been action taken, there's more coming. The point is, this happened from folks on the Republican side.
Yes.
They came from within.
Yes.
All right. So this stuff, again, it's not flattering. All these things are happening in this county. It's terrifying. You guys, Mike mentioned the 58,000 data breach earlier. Everybody tracking that? There was a data hack in 2023. 58,000 voters had their information stolen from the Supervisor of Elections office. Their driver's license number and the last four of their social security number. What do you need to request a vote by mail? By the way, my wife, you see the theme here? My wife continues to be the victim of our election. She was part of that 58,000, which is what got us in the race to begin with, right? Like, what's going on in our elections office? How are we the only elections hack in the history of Florida and nobody's talking about it?
No, we're not supposed to be online though, too, remember that?
None of that stuff.
Supposed to be online.
Craig loves to use the word air gap. When he uses air gap, I'm like, you're talking about like, between your
Air
head.
gap, right, yeah, you're dumb enough to give it an air gap.
The-
Stolen.
It's been an enlightening experience. So these things all happen. It's terrifying, guys. When you look behind the curtain, that's the thing. They know you don't want to look behind the curtain. But I'm here to tell you that this stuff is all levels of election interference, and it's effective. All right. But you don't even need to do all this. This is all the kind of in the gray. A lot of it. Some of it, the direct is not. It's the vote by mail ballots. Okay. What they were doing in Hillsborough County is sending out the vote by mail ballots. did you know, just in our last election, even though we got these new integrity laws, over 4,000 vote by mail ballots were sent out with no ID and no social security number provided. What's worse, over 3,200 of them were sent back in with votes. 3,200 is a big number, right? Now, how do we know it's vote by mail? I can't pull up the website, but I'm just gonna tell you because it's fun. President Trump had, I'm gonna give you whole numbers. These are whole numbers, okay? President Trump had 343,000 total votes, right, collectively. Kamala Harris had 341,000, right?
Million?
Not thousand. This is in Hillsborough County. This is just in our county.
Okay.
I don't want to put anybody on the
Vote
spot.
by mail ballots.
No, total votes.
Total votes.
Just in Hillsborough County, 342,000, or 343, roundabout, right? Yeah, no, that's just, trust me, I can pull it up, but trust me.
Unless you're winning
And Kamala's 341, okay? Now we can scroll down, we'll go down to the lowly SOE race, and I don't wanna put anybody on the spot, but I could imagine that not everybody in here can name the Supervisor of Elections. Alright, like it's a safe bet.
But I can't.
I know you can, you guys can, you guys are. But I mean, I don't, and that's my point, right? The Supervisor of Elections, the guy that we were in, coincidentally were in the race against, you wanna know what his vote total was? 800 more than Donald Trump.
Oh, sure.
He had over 20,000 more vote by mail ballots than Kamala Harris.
Sure.
How does Craig Latimer
Exactly.
get 800 more votes than the most popular candidate ever to walk the planet Earth besides perhaps Jesus Christ himself? You understand?
A lot of people just vote for president.
It gets better though. It gets better. This is why when I pull it up and show you, this is off the official report, right? And I probably need to pull up the report to show you. But it gets better. Because of all of our work, especially your work, truly, the turnout for the Republicans was tremendous. And in early voting and day of voting, in my race, we were winning by 30,000 votes.
Oh,
Yeah.
An insurmountable number to overcome, right? We were literally getting the calls, like, congrats. It was going down. So when it all washes out, here's what it looks like. Republicans win, right? And everywhere Republicans win from Donald, because of Donald Trump's wave, right?
Yeah.
Support down the ticket, Republicans all the way down, except for two things. Bob Enriquez, the tax appraiser, right, or the property appraiser, and the Supervisor of Elections. Suddenly, both of those races, where they were both behind by 30,000, both won with a significant amount of vote by mail ballots. Both with more vote by mail ballots than any other candidate on, well, Craig had the most, but Bob was right behind him. Get off, there's so much, but I want to keep it on point. In Hillsborough County, I said we had 4,000 this last election, right? And what this no ballot thing is a new, it's a result of the changes, okay? It's a new phenomenon. They shouldn't happen, so that people don't know how to respond, quite frankly. But it is definitely against the law. It's like it's mandatory. You must show some form of who you are to get a vote by mail ballot, right? That's the whole point of the law. So there was essentially in Hillsborough County 4,000. Do you want to know how many were in Hillsborough or in Pinellas County in one day that were sent out of no ballots? 119,000.
Well, that was 219,000.
No, this is one day, 119,000.
The total was about 200,000.
Yeah, it was on June
One
23rd.
Sunday had 119,000 in
Yeah,
one day.
June 23rd, when Chris came out, we had automatically some strange, which is impossible for the system to even take.
Yeah.
Not a one for one, it's sort of electronically.
Yeah, and, you know, and that, like the more you peel the onion, obviously you're like, wait a second. You look at things, you're like, this is impossible to administratively process in this time period, right? And then you start peeling again, you're like, what? How does the computer even process these in one day without giving a warrant? You know, and then the more you start looking at it, it's like, oh, there are so many layers, right? So how does it keep getting overlooked? Because at this point, it's not a question of, well, before I get to that highlight, I'm going to backtrack one. Our final election report. I'm not going to mess with this computer. If you go online, you can go to votehillsborough.gov. right? You can pull up the 2024 election results. Pull it up. Historically, blank ballots are reported. Craig has removed them because we made it an issue, a campaign issue, and you can't explain what blank ballots are. I'm not going to go there, but it's a whole thing. But he removed it from the report. But more importantly, the final report is clearly doctored, right? Like like now that I just said it, you go pull up the report, you're going to be like, how did I not see this? Believe me, it took a second for us. We looked at it for months before we realized it. It is as if they printed it out, they overlaid what they wanted, and then scanned it back into the system, cut out, it has different fonts that are gray, it has different fonts.
Yeah.
When you convert it back to Word, it goes all, it shows insane edits, like insane amount of edits. There's been national level articles written about this in the American Thinker. It's actually is part of the case study here. Right here, proud to say. And it's so egregious, right? Like, it's on, and also, if you guys aren't following me on social media on Facebook, I know a lot of people aren't on Facebook. Billy Christensen, Florida Election Integrity, comes right up. If you go, you'll get all this stuff, but you'll see all these charts and all this data. This is getting national level attention, right? It's not, President Trump's not coming up with some of this stuff just on a whim. And it's not because of just Hillsborough County. There's a theme established across the nation on these things, and it's overwhelming that you can no longer ignore it. And that's the key, right? It's no longer a question if there is fraud, or if there is fraud. We have enough raw data to establish overwhelming amount of anomalies that it must be investigated, right? All of these in and themselves should be an issue. The bigger question is, why is there no enforcement of the laws that we have in place? Why is our leadership taking no steps to take action, especially heading into another election?
Because every candidate that's won office since in these fraudulent elections would be null and void and out of office, from blood judges right up down the line.
But there is undeniable, well, I could go on forever with like anecdotes that would have the hair on the back of your neck standing up, like vote by mail ballots being sent out. In Pinellas County, this is Democrat on Democrat crime.
Yeah.
In the last primary, Democrats filed, it's in court documents, it's in the Pinellas County court documents. They have a whistleblower. She came forward and said, I was paid, I'm sorry, I liked you, but I was paid to fill out ballots on behalf of your competitor. And if I don't have to give the money back because I need the money, I'm willing to testify.
Right.
And it wasn't just me, it was me and 3 other girls and a fat man. This is all in the documents. That's Democrat on Democrat. So again, it's not individual parties. This is a collective issue because everybody is aware. And most of this is happening at the local level because nobody's paying attention. I just illustrated in the primaries especially, you have less than 20% turnout. Do you understand how easy it is to manipulate now that we know we can send out vote by mail ballots and nobody's gonna ask me? If we weren't up here identifying this stuff, you would have if you Google right now, anything about the results, about the property tax, or the property appraiser's office, or the SOE office election results, you will not get a single article about the results. They want no attention brought to these issues. And on the Hillsborough ballot, everything was Republican except those 2 races. And one amendment. And what was that amendment? I should have asked you guys this before we started. Did anybody in here vote to increase their property taxes? You don't have to, but I mean, I want to get at least one person. We've been out a lot lately. I have not seen one person publicly admit that they voted for this. But according to our elections, 67% of us voted for this. Yeah. It's impossible. It's that right there. And oh, by the way, the governor's going around saying that we're going to get rid of property taxes in this state. But that's not what Hillsborough County is advocating.
Please, did that require 51%, or did it actually require 2/3?
It required 2/3.
2/3, 66%, and you telling us they just got the 67?
Yes, it went through. That's why you're all getting
people.
That's why you're all getting new trim notices for your homeowners, and you all have a 3 to 4, 50, 100
That
tax
shows the
increase.
county inserted phony ballots to pass that to make cities.
Well, we don't know. We can make accusations. We don't know because we'll never get an independent audit. Now, the SOE offices will tell you, oh, everything's fine. We do independent audits. What they don't tell you is that those independent audit companies are selected from a professional organization of Supervisor of Elections. And that they pay money to go to these places and essentially market to the SOE organization. And they're like, hey, we'll audit your election. Like, this
Well,
is
that's why we're
Florida.
not consulting, no less.
Guys, this is happening. It's undeniably happening, right? There's also reports of police reports of raids of hotels where they find election data constantly. And how many times have we heard, right, that people are being paid online to come down and agitate? Why would those same people come down online and fill out fraudulent vote by mail ballots? We know that this is happening. We can show it now. Like, statistically, there's like, obviously not 130,000 people came off the voter rolls while our population was going through the roof, supposedly when almost everybody voted in the last election. Because they wouldn't have been able to qualify to come off the voter roll, right? We're almost to 2012 levels on our voter registrations. Our final voter report is clearly doctored, which that's the one that's under criminal investigation, or is being reviewed for criminal investigation right now. That's the big one, because it's undeniable. So what does it mean, right? Well, it means that there's fraud. And like I said, why are we not doing anything about it? Why is there not more public outcry about elections? Well, I can give you a political lens. They're going into an election. Nobody wants a dirty potato in their hand during an election, right? President Trump says we're going to get rid of vote by mail ballots. Governor DeSantis the next day says there's nothing to see here in Florida. We're the gold standard. He literally says that, right? Vote by
He has
mail.
stuck by that bullshit since he won,
Well.
and in 2022, he refuses to see the evidence.
Well, and again, from a political lens, and I'm not giving excuses, I want to help people understand what's going on, because it's important we understand. From a political lens, they're in campaign mode, and they don't want any negativity affiliated with it right now, and that is a bad one, right? And obviously completely not in line with what the president's putting out. So everything's good here, Mr. President. Don't look here. I guess I'm the only sucker that's willing to stand up and point it out.
Yeah.
Right? And then you see what happens as a result. But here's the reality. The voters recognize it. We won that election. See, now we know, like, all right, we won that election, right? It's statistical improbability for him after being down what he was to win. And quite frankly, John Balance won his election too.
Yeah.
Right? You know, that's a reality. It's an emotional thing, and it should be. And that's what I want. I want to elicit an emotional response out of people, because that's what it's going to take, right? And that's why these groups are more powerful than you may realize. And that's what I was trying to convey to you, Mike. It is important you guys stay together, you stick together, right? That's kind of what COVID was about, kind of testing the boundaries. By the way, that's probably what President Trump's doing. He's testing the boundaries with the vote by mail stuff. He knows it's a state issue, but he's going to let it play out. And everybody's going to have to show their hands. And what we're going to see is a bigger peek behind the curtain, reinforcing what we already know, right? So now, again, back to my political lens,
Yeah.
who's going to get stuck with the hot potato? Governor DeSantis probably doesn't want to, right? You understand? So now that's just kind of why you can maybe perhaps feel some resistance from our electeds, because they don't want to get stuck with it. Because it's like, if you know about it, then it's so egregious that you have to, like, oh my gosh, I do have to do something. You understand? And they're playing politics, right? We're not playing politics. As everybody's figured out now. When we ran from this, that was the problem. That's why we won on every front, because elections are universal. It's our voice, and that's why you should be emotional. They are stealing your voice, and now they are literally stealing your pennies. This is my message about this in general. It's not even integrity. Integrity is a get out of jail free. Election security and transparency and accountability is an everybody problem. All right. we've shown, in our own way today, have shown that it's just in-house, right? That we've got major issues. And this is why Craig's hiding in a corner right now. And this is why your electeds don't want to talk about it, because it's so damning that you can't do anything. Because it forces them into action. So what can we do? What can we do? That's a good question. Well, let me just do one more thing. Go back. I want to make sure everybody understands about this Governor Sterling Award. Mr. Latimer, when he sends out all of his stuff and all of his buildings, it says recipient of the Governor Sterling Award, right? I did the research. I do all of our research. We got a team. We're good. The Governor Sterling Award is a paid-for service. It's a misnomer, right? It has nothing to do with the governor. It's a commercial company. You pay them. You actually hire consultants to make sure that your organization is efficiently operating. And then you get evaluated by this company. And if you pass their standards, you get awarded the Governor Sterling Award. And it's celebrated within the commercial industry as having supreme operating organization, right? Something like FedEx or something. So he goes out, and I'm sure a political consultant provided him this recommendation. He gets this award, and for the last 10 years, he's been posting this over everything, right? So we did just the research on what it cost him just to get the reward, because he used taxpayer money, right? This is what I love about Florida, everything's public. Almost $200,000 just to get the award, paying consultants, travel, taking the test here, it costs money to have the test done, blah, 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 right? And I laugh, I wonder if we had that same evaluation today, would he get the same award? I'd like to see the results. But that's just one example and how they manipulate. This was in 2010.
Oh, 10.
Yeah, I'm sorry, in 2013.
Is he wearing a mask on his damn face?
Oh, I love this picture. This is encapsulate the whole thing. It's like, his name's on everything. And this is your taxpayer money. And it's, you can point to other electeds that do similar things. And it's unfortunate.
And it's not firmed out, is it? That office is not firmed out.
No,
You can stay forever.
correct. And this is why, like, when you're faced with these supreme conditions where, guys, like, you put yourself in the swamp's position. You have a grassroots candidate seemingly connected to nobody and potentially unaware of how the game's played. Initially, this guy's a joke, nobody takes it seriously, then suddenly, he's trending 7 points ahead, like we didn't know. Right? We have the endorsements of the biggest organizations, the organizations that endorse candidates that are incumbents 99% of the time, and yet chose to endorse us in a very rare circumstance. This is how, like I said, we were getting the calls. And then magically this happens. And everybody knows what happened. Everybody in the knows what happened, but everybody turns, like when you have something going on in the family, everybody kind of turns. So what can we do? They want to build a bureaucracy between us and them. That's the government way. I'm a government guy. I worked at Central Command as a government employee for 10 years. I love bureaucracy. I get it. It took me a while, but I get it. They have an office established seemingly to filter all these election integrity issues. By the way, that's an indicator of how many election integrity issues there are. We need, and we're gonna go with the club leaders, when we have these election issues, like I have another one now about the no-no ballots, the 4,000 that we just figured out the other day. We're gonna have the entirety of the clubs submit the complaint to the FDLE. Because once you establish a document trail of a repeated issue, it becomes official document, it's undeniable. You don't even need 100, you just need like 10 of the same issue from the same county. Then it gets pointed to, they can't resist it any longer, right? That's what it's gonna take. But that's what we're gonna do. And that's what we could use your help, because that's how you beat a bureaucracy. You flood them, right? As a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, we know very well that their strategies are to flood us with guerrilla style and just tax us, right? Just tax, make them adjust, because it costs us millions, billions, trillions of dollars to adjust to the different bombs they're building, right? That's a strain on our system. That's how you beat these guys. It's as simple as that. They want to play games, that's how we play. Push for independent audits, truly independent audits. The first elected official that stands up publicly and says, I'm standing for true, and this is what it's gonna, and really has an action plan, and is taking steps to do it, get behind that person. I don't care where they fall on the spectrum, that's the person you want, because that's the person that's gonna get you a clean election. If they're willing to come out publicly, you should be willing to support them. But again, you have to understand from the political representative perspective, their appetite to take this monumental issue on is difficult, it's low, right?
They can look like the big hero though.
Bingo. Pressure elected officials, and I mean that in a nice way. I don't mean like to go shake them down. Show like, I'll be honest. I felt it a little bit just campaigning because it was. I mean, you guys got us there. I appreciate. I can't emphasize that enough. Like truly, it's not conjecture anymore. Like we got there, and it means a lot. But I felt that like everybody's coming at you, right? Like, and it's like you're trying to log everything. That's how these guys are getting. They're a fire hose. I'm not making excuses, but so we have to understand that they're not always receiving what we're given. And we have to find a way to get that to them, whatever that way is. And each one of them is different, right? So that's on us. And if you want to fix a problem, we want to get real about fixing it, and we got to get real about fixing it. And in all relationships, in my history, communication has always been the issue, right? So we have to find a way to communicate, like it or not. But we have to pressure them through effective communication. Make sense? We take the high road, we present them with the facts, stuff like this, like, okay guys, and then we give them a plan. You hit it, somebody can be a hero here.
Yeah.
How amazing would it be, for example, I offer, if the governor were to, based on all these egregious issues that clearly Craig's behind, says, I question your integrity or whatever, right? Whatever it is, like we've lost a lack of faith in whatever, and we're going to relieve you of your duties and let it play out, and then appoint whomever. Imagine what kind of signal that would have sent going into the midterm elections, especially when you want to stand for election integrity. It actually would send a national level signal, right? Why aren't these guys stepping up to the plate? Why is it taking the hillbilly from Kansas, the guy's not from here, they love to say they're from here, and God bless everybody that's from here. But that's like a first red flag when I hear it as a qualifier for being a candidate, right? These are all those levels of interference.
Insiders.
If I would have told you a year ago that there was a sheriff in Osceola County that was running a multi-million-dollar gambling ring,
Yep.
and has been for a decade, and perhaps was doing it through churches, I don't know. Nobody would be like, get out of here, you lost the credibility. And unfortunately, that same mayor,
Sheriff.
or that same sheriff,
Right.
that happened. He was just arrested a couple months ago in Osceola County.
Yep.
And I point to this election fraud issue because Osceola County is interesting. They similarly had a Republican turnout down ticket, except for their 5 constitutional roles: the county, the sheriff, property appraiser, election supervisor, tax collector, and clerk of court.
Clerk of courts.
Right. Yeah.
So those 5, all of the Democrats won, just in those 5 locals, and they all won with 10,000 plus more votes than President Trump, and it was all via significant vote by mail ballots.
Exactly.
Oh, the same sheriff that was just arrested the month after the election. So now you guys, like, we know these things. Now when you ask, why isn't anything happening? All right, you have to understand the problem. There's so many people that in one level way or another are either benefiting or standing or have all the way down to the person that have obviously are filling out vote by mail ballots using stolen information or wherever they're getting it from, these fraudulent vote by mail ballots, and sending them back in. People are monetizing our elections, and when it's become monetized, there's incentive. Now there's an organization, right, that you can track that. There's like you said, there's so many chances for somebody to step out and be a hero here. FDLE, a really keen criminal investigator, but there's so much resistance because of the swamp. So this is why when we say to you guys, we did it, despite all of that, that's how powerful your voice is, and that's how hard they're fighting to resist what we're doing. So spread the word. We're not asking for anything. Not yet. Oh my. I mean, I'm done and then I'll hit it. I know you got a good one. I know you do. We're not asking for anything. We just want you to educate your fellow voters. Because at some point, everybody's just gonna be like, oh, it's Billy. You know how it is, right? You do the wave. I keep coming here and saying it, you're gonna be like, all right, Billy, get off the mic, right? You're already doing it now. So, and don't back down. But that's the key. That's what they want you to do. They're bullies.
Just,
But listen, they're not thick. That's what I'm finding out. They are so thin. That's why they panic and they get so aggressive. That's why Craig over-cheated. He ended up giving himself more votes than the president. They panic, right? They see the numbers and they're like, oh, and they panic because they're not that thick. They're very thin. So we keep penetrating, right? And the whole thing falls. The problem is it falls, right? So let's say, for example, we slid in there, we got elected, like Ms. Peacock did in Seminole, thank goodness, right? Because look what happened right away. What did she say? The disorganization. Can you believe that? In what should be the most accountable office, right? So imagine if we got elected. The fear that would have put, because they're like, who is this guy? He's not, he's not affiliated with any of us. He's coming from a pretty clean background. We tried to slander him, it didn't work. What are we gonna do? He's gonna find out, right? And that's perhaps another reason why the network has turned their back and said, right? It sucks, we know what happened, but what are we gonna do? It's for, status quo for now. And the point there is, President Trump is made it a point for election integrity as one of his key issues, and he's coming out with action. We have a very small window to get this fixed. They're used to waiting people out. All right? It's not about us, me. John Totten has been by my side from day one, and God bless this man, truly. He's raising 3 kids out now, all by himself, and has been on every meeting and every campaign issue from day one, sacrificing everything. And look, that's what they're taking from people, right? Livelihoods now. Our real estate business, everybody knows now, so now my real estate business has to be political now, right? Because it pass out of the bag. So there's consequences. And this is not the kind of community that I want to live in. And I don't care if it's politics or not. At a bare minimum, and you mentioned it, Kurt, there's been too much sacrifice given for our right to vote, truly. It is fundamental to who we are as Americans. Doesn't matter where you fall on the political spectrum. We all have a right to vote and to have our voice heard. And these people are stealing our most sacred right. It is truly our most sacred and godly right. It's the right to have our voice heard. Our right to have the ability to practice what we want, what we know to be true. That's what they're trying to take from you. It's that serious. And that's why they're that egregious towards us. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. So keep up the pressure. Just when you have a lack of transparency of what should be the most transparent process, you can't go into a casino and not have every movement and everything tracked. Sure. If there was a penny missing from your bank account, I bet you would know. You'd be calling the bank. Why can't we have even remotely similar clarity about our election? I want to make sure that everybody understands that right now in Hillsborough County, everybody wants to understand how, right? It's to vote by mail ballots. Exactly. Okay? That's the problem. And what I think, this is my theory, because they were commoditized, man, I'm sorry guys, I need some more water. When they restricted the access to them, right, by having the SOEs clean the rolls, I'm sure scrupulous SOEs kind of slowed the cleaning a bit, delayed what they can. Those vote by mail ballots got sent out, and I bet you if you did an independent audit, a lot of those would be showing up. But because there was thank you, sir. Because there were fewer out there, they panicked and they sent out the no-no ballot ones. They were like, we don't have enough to send, we need to do something. But again, the silver lining here is that the Republicans and the conservatives in the area are dominating. They truly are. It's just been padded so heavily. And the other thing, and I'll probably say this, and I'll say it in front of any elected official or any expert, because we've been campaigning for over a year. I'm not campaigning right now. Everybody understands that, right? This is a follow through on our commitment. But nobody's ever questioned a single thing that we've put out. None of our issues, and we've been pretty open about on both sides where the issues are. Okay? And there's a reason for that. We've been pretty solid on our information. We're coming from a place of fact. The fraud in our county is happening in the vote by mail. And anybody that tells you that it's not happening is probably behind it or willfully putting their head in the sand because they don't want to know. Whatever it is, but it's not good. I've become a bit of a pessimist when it comes to the elections now because of the way things have gone. I tend to believe they probably understand or know what's going on, or perhaps part of it. But there is a network. And if you guys get bored, start scrolling online, start looking in Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, Panhandle of Florida, right? Small counties. Just look on Craigslist, look on public sites for anything that's advertising, local marketing, or come to Tampa, or come, pay, work, sign, fill out, admin work here, pay today. Anything like that is a red flag for something that's probably involved with this. The more people that are looking, because the state's obviously not going to investigate, we'll unravel the web ourselves. We'll treat it as an investigation, so we'll just flood the network. Let's find those nodes, and we'll work it backwards. So if you guys get bored on them whenever, that's something you can start looking online, right? Start looking for advertisement of admin work, and just say, I'm interested, see what happens. And they say, hey, we'll put you in a hotel, all you gotta do is fill out some documents. Or look for the advertisements that are saying come protest, or be, whatever.
Rent a crowd.
Yeah. Let's get some information on this. So, a little bit off target, but just something you can do to help. Because that's how we're gonna be. Because obviously, from the top down, it's not gonna happen unless you incentivize it politically. And right now, like I said, it's not a good thing. But we've got plans. I've totally got off topic, but I want to open up to questions because I know I'm sure there are a couple